I never stay in one country for long. It tends to become monotonous. I enjoy moving on, exploring new places, and meeting different people. It's a good life for the most part. Whenever I need money, I usually pick the fruit in Europe, where you can harvest fruit for most of the year, provided you're in the right country at the right time. The work isn't easy, but the pay is decent. I prefer to head south during the winter. Life is much easier under the sun, whereas Northern Europe can be quite cold during that season. Last year, in 1989, I spent October in Venice. I worked at a hotel for 3 weeks before gradually moving south. I always travel by train when possible. I like trains because you can walk around and meet many people. I left Venice and traveled to Trieste, where I got a cheap ticket for the slow train to Sofia in Bulgaria. This train meanders through Yugoslavia, taking a day and a half to reach its destination. The train departed from Trieste at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Initially, it was not crowded, but more passengers boarded in Zagreb. 2 girls walked down the corridor past my compartment. They peeked through the door but did not enter. Shortly afterward, an old woman came in, sat down, and fell asleep. The 2 girls came back down the corridor and looked into the compartment again. After leaving Zagreb, I gazed out the window for about 10 minutes before falling asleep. When I awoke, the 2 girls were now in the compartment. They appeared friendly, so I greeted them. "Hi," they said. "You're American, right?" I confirmed, saying I was indeed American. The taller girl smiled and said, "You're 23, your name is Tom Walsh, you have blue eyes, and your mom lives in Burnham-on-Sea, UK. "How did you know all that?" I asked. The second girl laughed, explaining that she had seen my passport in my coat pocket. Realizing my mistake, I retrieved my passport from my coat and put it back in my bag. I then asked, "Who are you?" They introduced themselves as Melanie and Carol from Los Angeles, USA. They were fond of Europe and had visited many places, including Britain, Holland, Denmark, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, and Greece. I mentioned I was heading to Bulgaria for about a month before continuing south for the winter, perhaps to Cyprus or North Africa. "Oh, yes," they said. "We love Bulgaria. Sofia is a fantastic city. What do you do for money?" Carol explained that they sometimes took small jobs, but Melanie encouraged me to share more about myself. I told them about my experiences. They were nice, possibly around 27 or 28, and we had a great time talking and laughing for hours. I shared many stories about my life, some true, some not, and they enjoyed them, calling me a great guy. I inquired about Bulgaria as I wasn't familiar with it. Melanie said they would be in Bela Palanka for a day or two but suggested meeting up in Sofia that weekend. They proposed meeting on Saturday night at the Hotel Marmura. Carol described it as a good, inexpensive place. I agreed it sounded great. The train was very slow, arriving in Belgrade at 6 o'clock in the evening. Many passengers disembarked, leaving just the 3 of us in the compartment. The conductor checked our tickets and left. Carol then suggested Melanie and I go to the restaurant while she rested. "I haven't much money right now," I said, "and food is expensive on the train. I plan to find a job in Sofia." Melanie reassured me. "We're okay for money this week and can treat you to a meal. We can also take you to the best restaurant in Sofia." I was grateful and, hungry, accepted their offer. Melanie and I had a meal at the restaurant while Carol stayed behind. When we returned, Carol was alone in the compartment. Melanie rested her feet on the seat and soon fell asleep. As more passengers boarded, 2 old men entered our compartment, glanced at Melanie's feet on the seat, and spoke loudly. Carol laughed, and Melanie woke up asking how soon we would arrive in Bela Palanca. "About half an hour," Carol said. Melanie explained their plans for Bela Palanca, finding a cheap hotel, meeting people, and exploring the town, even though it wasn't much. We agreed to meet in Sofia on Saturday night at the Hotel Marmura at 8 o'clock. When the train arrived in Bela Palanca, the two girls disembarked and waved goodbye through the window. I shouted after them, but the noise of the station drowned me out. They smiled and walked away, leaving me looking forward to Sofia. The train left Yugoslavia and entered Bulgaria at 2 o'clock in the morning. We stopped at a village whose name I can't remember. As I ate an apple and gazed out the window, a lot of policemen boarded the train. Passengers started to murmur, and I asked an old man next to me what was happening. "I don't know," he replied in poor Italian. "Maybe they're looking for someone." Two policemen entered our compartment, a tall, thin one and a short, plump one. They scrutinized everyone, then focused on me. "Come with us, please," the fat policeman said in English. "Why?" I asked, confused. "Bring your bag," said the tall policeman. I was about to ask more questions, but policemen don't usually appreciate questions from young men with long hair, so I kept quiet, grabbed my bag, and followed them. In the station building, more policemen and some young people from the train were waiting. Everyone was either anxious or bored. The police inspected everyone's bags before letting them return to the train. The two policemen took me to a table. "Your passport, please," the fat policeman said, "and open your bag." They examined my passport, and I opened my bag. At the next table, a young policewoman with red hair smiled at me, and I smiled back. Suddenly, the tall policeman dumped all my dirty shirts and clothes out of my bag onto the table. As the contents spilled out, numerous packets of American dollars emerged, neat $50 notes in large bundles. I was stunned. I couldn't speak as I became the center of attention with many police officers crowding around. 50,000, 100,000, 150,000. There's $200,000 here, the tall policeman announced. I quickly found my voice and protested. "But it's not my bag. I've never seen this money before in my life." The fat policeman, with his very short gray hair and little black eyes, remained stern and silent. "You can't bring U.S. dollars into this country," he said. "But I didn't bring them," I insisted. "They're not mine." The noise in the station was overwhelming as I looked out the window and saw my train slowly pulling away. "Hey, wait!" I shouted. "That's my train." The tall policeman laughed, clearly enjoying himself. "Oh, no," he said. "You're not getting back on that train. You're staying here with us in our beautiful country." So, I never made it to Sofia on Saturday. I was quite disappointed and wanted to speak with Melanie and Carol. Ask them a few questions. I never did get to Cyprus or North Africa that winter. Well, I suppose one learns from experiences. Life in prison isn't easy, but it's warm in winter. The food is decent, and I'm meeting some interesting people. There's a man from Georgia, USSR, named Boris. He comes from a place by the Black Sea and is a great guy. When we're released, Boris and I plan to head to Australia, perhaps Brisbane or Sydney, to find work on a ship and start a new life. Here's to hoping next year will be better.